So let's talk about Jarrett Culver. He's 6'6" out of Texas Tech, projected to go somewhere between like around number 4, 5, 6, around that area. Of course, with the Lakers selecting fourth, a million things could happen with their spot. But we're just going to talk about Culver a little bit. So, to me, the thing with Culver is he could end up being one of the best all-around players. I shouldn't say one of the best. That would imply like top 10 player. But one of the more all-around players in the NBA if he can really progress with his three and his handle. Because I think, first off, I think he's going to be a pretty damn good rebounder in the NBA. He grabbed about 6.5 a game, I believe, in college, and he's pretty athletic, good size to grab boards, and shows a willingness to do it as well, which could allow him to get out into the open floor and make some passes. And I think Culver is definitely a good enough playmaker right now to be effective in the open floor, making the obvious pass, which is still not the easiest thing to do. A lot of NBA players, you're not confident in with even doing that. So Culver's definitely better than the average player, I would say, especially on the wing when it comes to how much offense he can run right now. But, of course, if you want to be a real effective ball handler and all that, then you got to be able to do it in the half court. And I think as of right now, Culver is probably not good enough to where you want him running a bunch of pick and rolls and having him go in ISOs and attack switches and all that. But I think he's good enough to where you think with a few years he can get to that level. I mean, think of somebody like Caris LeVert, right? Caris' first season or two, he has moments, they're intriguing for the Nets, but you're like, all right, it's going to take a minute with this guy. But then eventually, we saw this season, LeVert, he's going off the dribble, and he's being relied on by the Nets to put up some real points, and he was doing it. And if it wasn't for the injury, I mean, who knows what his season averages would have been. And he was awesome in the playoffs, so maybe that's Culver's trajectory. It takes a couple of years to get there, but when it really hits, this is a guy who you could be like, oh, wow, this guy can be maybe not a primary ball handler on a really good team, but definitely a secondary one and someone you can rely on for big buckets and things like that. But, of course, that's with his handle really progressing to a level that as of right now, it's simply not at. You know, the crossovers and just the general dribbling, like possession to possession, like you see Culver and just, you know, sometimes his body's a little too upright when he dribbles or it's a little too stiff. Like, this is definitely not the Kyrie Irving of wings, but we hope that Culver can just kind of keep on keeping on season to season. Now, looking at the teams that he could end up on, if he's on the Lakers, you assume he doesn't handle the ball that much, which could mean more jumpers, more cutting to the rim, and things like that, which could probably be a good thing for him. I think it would be great for Culver to just get open shots early in his career. Lonzo and LeBron could certainly do that. And Ingram has made some strides with the ball in his hand as well. Cleveland would be a little more maybe relying on him to score, to be fair, between Sexton, Clarkson, and, well, I guess Culver would be the third if he ended up here. That would be three guys who kind of like to have the ball but aren't very good at... Well, Culver's not a bad passer, but I don't know if he'd be just like dropping dimes all over the place day one. And Sexton, while he had some moments there, certainly is something he needs to work on, and Clarkson has never thrown a pass in his life. So that would be a weird spot for Culver day one. It could be fine, it could not be fine. I guess Kevin Love's spacing and general existence could help that out, but we also don't know if Kevin Love's going to be healthy. So Cleveland would be a little weird. Phoenix at number 6, I mean, if Culver fell this far, which I don't really think he would, but if he did, it might be a little weird because they have a million wings, but Ayton could get him some open looks, Booker could get him some open looks, TJ Warren could get him some open looks, so that would be interesting. But anyway, we talk about those open looks. Can Culver make shots? So there's reason to believe he can be a good shooter. There's reason to believe it could be a little meh. The percentage, 30% from 3. Free throws, 71%. Not bad, not great. I think Culver shows more promise right now from mid-range, pulling up, and things like that. He actually seems pretty good. But, of course, you got to be able to make threes. And his three-pointer, it's a little mechanical, I guess. It's definitely not the shot of a guy who just unconsciously shoots threes in a game, which means you're not as scary to the defense. Doesn't mean you can't be effective. Doesn't mean you can't make shots. Hell, it doesn't even mean that you still can't be a floor spacer, but there's definitely a difference between, let's say, being Buddy Hield and being, I don't know, Kent Bazemore, I guess. So we'll just have to see where Culver ends up there. Now again, the team he ends up on, I mean, if it's the Lakers, then we could see his three-point percentage rise a bit. Also, I think Culver can be pretty damn good at transition and cutting and maybe even posting up in time. We'll have to see on that one. If I can think of a player comparison for Culver, there's a few different ones you could think of. One that came randomly to me, which might be way off base, but let's say if Culver progresses quite a lot with his handle. His threes are good, but not amazing. Could we be seeing like a Caron Butler sort of thing, where it's like high teens, low 20s, solid rebounder, solid playmaker, and a guy who you can run offense through, but you still would really like to have like a point guard and all that stuff? Maybe if we can go to a little bit lower of a level as a scorer, but maybe a more all-around game. Nicholas Batum, you know, back when Batum was good. Maybe. I mean, the things that Culver has is he's tall and he projects to be really versatile. The fear is he could end up being like a not bad at everything, but not necessarily that good at anything either. So we'll just have to see what teams think of him. I think there's definitely reason to choose someone over Culver with the idea of, okay, if I select DeAndre Hunter, there's a chance that I could be getting an all-defense guy. If I select Darius Garland, I could be getting one of the best shooters in the league. And not to say those guys don't have fears themselves. I mean, pretty much everybody besides Zion does. And even then, if you want to triple down on his shooting, it is a thing. So we'll just have to see with Culver. There's good, there's fears, and that's just how it is.